This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
And we talk with Mike Irwin from Pig Trail Nation here on Halftime. Mike, appreciate you joining us today. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing all right, man. Hey, the Hogs just swept Tennessee. I don't know if I could be much better than that. It's good to be a Razorback now, and there's something about this Arkansas versus Tennessee thing since Tony Vitello became the coach. They are 9-1 against Tony Vitello and the Volunteers. So I call that ownership stake.
Yeah, Vitello's won 70% of his games there, but he's pitiful against Arkansas. You almost feel sorry for him this weekend. Nothing went right for them, and they didn't hit. They made critical errors. I mean, as good as their pitching, you look at their pitching numbers and you go, how are these guys losing? It's because they don't hit. I mean, I think it's something like 10 of their 13 losses, they've scored 3 runs or less. And, I mean, they just got dominated. And then DVH, I don't know. We still got a lot of games to play. But if he keeps this up, he's coach of the year in the SEC. Look at all the decisions he's having to make with maneuvering his bullpen around and trying to figure out who does what, when, and where. And people keep going, wait a minute, you can't use your best 2 guys on Friday. And then all of a sudden you get a sweep. He's just pulling knobs and pushing switches and doing all this stuff, and it's all working for him right now.
We can look in like our best scenario. I mean, you get the reason that you can have Hagen Smith doing that on a Friday now is because Gage Wood and Dylan Carter have been as good as they looked this past weekend. Nobody would have expected either one of those two to be as important as they are to this team's success at the moment. But, you know, Tygart's going to be coming back either this week. It's probably more like next week. And then you got another decision to make as to whether or not you move Hagen back into the rotation or you keep him in relief. And one thing, Mike, that stood out from this last week, and you've covered Arkansas baseball a long time, so you know it's at Dave Van Horn's heart when it comes to how he manages a game. But I love that he's always been able to adjust the way that he manages based upon the kind of talent that he has. But he got back to running the bases, stealing bases, putting the guy in motion against Tennessee because that pitching staff doesn't hold runners at all. They just don't. And it's amazing. They stole 8 bases in 9 tries this past weekend. The one time anyone was caught is because Bolton overslid second base. He was that safe that he overslid second base. That's 25% of their total stolen bases for the season in these 3 games against Tennessee. And that you could see that really threw Tennessee's pitchers and their fielders off.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's DVH, again, pushing the right buttons. And then, you know, you just tend to take defense for granted, but then when you watch them go up against a team that's making those mistakes, and you look at Callie over there just doing things, I mean, Arkansas's defense several times, especially in the Sunday game, sort of bailed them out. So, you know, remember the throw that almost pulled Slavins off first, and they had to review it, and you're sitting there going, whoa, that's going to be huge. And they keep doing this stuff. And then you talk about Gage Wood. Last 3 weekends, Gage Wood has thrown 7 1/3 innings and given up 2 runs. Who would have thought that earlier in the year when DVH was sticking him out there in tough situations against good teams? And, you know, he's getting criticized in the media. And Courtney went down and did a story on his parents, and they were just furious with some of the stuff that was being said about him. But that's what happens when you get on a big stage. You're going to get criticized, even if you're a freshman, but then he comes back and delivers. So I can't – I'm sitting here realizing, I mean, now you've lost Jared Wagner for a while, and you've got all these problems, and I'm thinking, how are they sitting here now tied for second for the overall lead in the SEC? How did that happen? How do they have a 1.5 lead over the number 1 team in the country in your own division with all these issues they have? I mean, this may be his best coaching job ever.
Feels like it. Feels like it's one of the best coaching jobs he's ever had. Hey, Mike. Right when we started our commercial break, it looks like there's an announcement of another transfer coming into Arkansas basketball. This is Ellis, who was the leading scorer for a really bad Louisville team this last year, but still he was able to score almost 18 points per game. You know, we got the word about Barry Dunning Jr. going into the transfer portal this past weekend. I thought Dunning's tweet from like 2 weeks ago at least hinted that he was coming back, but you know, I think with all the guards that have come in, and I don't think he had a spot on the team. So Ellis in, and the roster churn.
That's a new aspect to it.
It's amazing.
Phil, like I didn't have to go through that part of it when you were a college athlete, but you had all these underclassmen coming in. You had freshmen coming in. Now you have sophomores, juniors, seniors. You have upperclassmen coming in, and so you're looking around like, am I going to get to play? When is my time? And usually you knew, like, yeah, sit here this year. It's going to be fresh coming. It'll be my time next year, but sometimes it's not.
I mean, I just cannot imagine what it's like to be a freshman and not playing much when you're bringing in guys out of the portal every year. I mean, you just got to be sitting there thinking, what do I do? Look, I mean, you can tell what he's doing here because, first of all, he didn't have shit. Every year when there's a problem, last year, we're not big enough, so he goes and gets size. Now it's like we don't shoot well enough. So he's bringing in all these guys that I don't know who's going to score the points because there's not enough points to go around with all these guys. He's bringing in these guys that average 15, 17, 18 points a game. This latest acquisition is a point guard, and some have made the point. Yeah, you need a true point guard that can also score, and they brought in a point guard out of Washington who's a good facilitator, decent scoring, and then they got the freshman blocker that's coming in. So that's three, and maybe he just felt like he needed another one because some have said, wait a minute, what are you doing here? You got to get another big guy. You got to get a center in here, a true big guy. And it's amazing to me to read this stuff from all these fans, and you're thinking, seriously? Are you sitting here telling me that Musselman doesn't know who he needs, but you do? It's just, you're like, whoa. Okay, I'll take you and put you in that position and let you build the team for next year and see what happens. You live with the consequences.
Yeah, I'm a Musselman fan, Mike. I think he's tinkering and getting it right, and man, he gets the team going at the right spot. But we do need some shooters. There's no question about it. The one thing I wonder is he bringing in a lot of primary guys that they need the ball to score? Are any of these guards, can they score off the ball where they don't have to necessarily have the ball? Ricky Council had to have the ball in his hand. Nick Smith had to have the ball in his, are we bringing any guards that don't have to have the ball in their hand?
Well, because none of us are all that familiar with these guys.
Right.
I mean, I haven't taken the time to go look at a bunch of their games and see what happens. And so typically what happens, we all just find out when the season starts who's doing what, where, why, and how. But he is bringing in guys with good numbers, and he's got two experienced point guards now. That's what I kept talking about this past season is who is your experienced point guard out there? And you didn't have one. And I think it caused some problems. So, and clearly he looked at that and went, I got to solve that issue. Now, I don't think he's finished. I don't. I could be wrong. But you're sitting there, you don't know what Devo's going to do, right?
That's what I was going
to
ask.
Still not sure. Yeah, and we're still not sure about Mitchell. What's he going to do? So you almost feel like he's in a situation where he's sitting there not knowing and maybe get told, because fans don't get this. I got a question I'll ask Mike about how this works. Would he actually tell somebody to leave? Well, he's not going to admit it. And I don't know what the conversation is, but I'm pretty sure that takes place. I don't think Dunning wanted to leave, not based on the tweet he put out, but then he does. So, yeah. I think there still could be one more guy brought in if they can get the right guy, and that would be, a big guy for defensive purposes and maybe scoring inside.
Right, that's the one thing that I see that's missing now. It's like a true center. I don't think Mekhi Mitchell is a true center. I think he's more of a power forward that slides into center when it's necessary. But, everybody would like to get a 7-footer, and it's not the easiest thing to go get. But as far as the backcourt's concerned, it's really jammed. You get guys that played and started for good teams. Tremont Mark was a starter at Houston. Khalif Battle, not only a starter, but one of the top scorers in the American Conference. Ellis, Louisville Stunner, he's one of their starters. Menefield, starter at Washington. You bring in Layden Blocker. You got Joseph Pinion, Darian Ford, and then there's still Devo. I don't know where the minutes are for a Joseph Pinion, for a Darian Ford. I haven't seen Blocker play enough to know where his minutes would come from.
You almost have to ask yourself, is this the year, next year, will that be the year when Musselman starts playing 9 guys instead of 7? I don't know.
We ask ourselves that every year.
Well, if you're Jordan Walsh, you're sitting around in your position, you're a 4. If you're Jordan Walsh, with all these guards coming in, you're not going to be a 3. You're gonna have to play a power forward role.
Exactly, and we're sitting here talking about all these things they need and who they've got. It reminds me of at Christmas time when I was a kid, and my mom said, "Okay, what do you want for Christmas? Are you kidding me? I want this. I want that. I want this. I want that." It's the perfect Christmas for me. Now I didn't get it. But that's what I wanted, and that's almost like what we're talking about here with all these guys. Well, we don't have a true center, but we do have this. Well, maybe if you get one more guy, you've got the perfect Christmas.
It's a big Christmas sock, that's for sure. Mike, I need a couple of things that might have stood out to you at the spring scrimmage at Razorback Stadium on Saturday. What did you see?
Okay, a little bit controversial maybe if I say this, but it's just my observation. I think you could tell that KJ it's not an entirely new offense, but the terminology is all different, and people don't get this, that is a big deal. And he admitted afterward he's still kind of dealing with that terminology change. I thought that the new offense plus this new defense where you've got 6 defensive ends coming at you left and right on every play, I thought that got to him a couple of times. He had some big plays. He had the one big pass play to Satania. But if you noticed, there were a couple of 3 possessions where they went backwards. I'm talking about the ones. They start off 1st and 10, and then it's 4th and 15. And I think he will be better in the fall. Pittman hinted at that. He will be. He's still got a lot of work to do with this. And then the other thing that I noticed was you got true backups now. You got 2, honestly. You don't want to play the freshman next year. You don't have to, Singleton. But I thought Criswell looked really good. I did. I mean, and Pittman, he never mentioned the backup quarterback situation last year, but he did talk about when you go through the spring and you don't tackle, you sometimes make wrong decisions about where somebody, is this your true backup? Is this your starter? You sometimes have to guess because guys, I can't remember the name of this quarterback. I'm getting so old, but this was so many years ago, but they had this kid that looked great in the spring, and he was running left and right and taking off and doing all this stuff. First game of the year, he breaks loose and goes about 20 yards downfield, and some guy runs him down and runs over him. And he was never the same because he had not been tackled in the spring and ended up transferring. It's just a big deal when you go through the spring and you got that green jersey on, or it's a black jersey now, I guess, and you don't get tackled, then you don't know much as a coaching staff. And that's what he was basically saying. We have to wait till this fall. And he indicated they're going to do some tackling in the preseason.
Get analysis of every play, prop, and point at BetOnline. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to sign up and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Be sure to use our promo code BELIEVE to receive your bonus. That's BLEAV. BetOnline.ag, where the game starts.